Ik ben echt super blij. Deze recording gaat ook in het Engels, want ik zit hier met niemand minder dan met Jessie Johnson. Jessie, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you are here for our 100th podcast of Energy in Business. And we were just talking when we first met, and it was in 2019, when someone pointed me to your direction. And we had a conversation, and I had to say yes. And you were the first person, coach, who pointed me in the direction of me, that I could create myself with my thinking, a life which suited me. So I still want to say thank you.
It's such an honor. I have always loved you. I'm just delighted to be with you again in this new context and celebrate you and your exquisite skill and expertise, and just have fun talking with you about energy and business. I mean, what more fun subject is there for us as spiritual folk in the modern age?
It's amazing. Yeah, I love the topic. I have lovely conversations in my podcast, so you had to be in it.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Maybe people don't know you, so can you introduce yourself? Who you are?
Good question. I'm so regularly evolving that my own experience of myself is sort of different in every moment, but probably I can summarize something useful.
Okay.
I'm an artist, first and foremost, and a spiritual seeker and teacher as an expression of that artistry, or vice versa. Feels like the two are intertwined for me. My relationship with God and creativity is so connected. And I've had a business for about 8 years, coaching spiritual teachers and healers, specifically around money and what it looks like to have a healthy and conscious relationship with money, to make the money that really matches you and supports you in living as your true self, whatever that looks like. I think that for a long time, people knew me as someone who could coach them to a 7-figure business. And it's true that I've done that and have helped people do that, but it's sort of feels less and less interesting to talk about that, except to just help people get in the ballpark of what we're talking about. I think for people who already have 8 or 9-figure businesses, there's still stuff that you and I are going to talk about that would be really interesting and powerful for them when it comes to energy and the integration of these things. And for people who haven't even imagined having a 7-figure business, or maybe even a 6-figure business, then I think that there's going to be probably every word or every sentence is going to hold a gem. So money's in the mix. Even if we didn't talk about it the rest of the podcast, the like solid money that matches you will be held in this conversation.
Yeah, and it's necessary, because money provides to live the life you want to live, provides that you can create what you want to create, the life you want to create. And in Holland, people don't like to talk about money. How is it? It's incredible. And I remember we were talking about it as well. I remember before I said yes, I asked you, have you ever worked with people from Holland? Because it's itchy here.
Yeah.
People like to talk about money. Do you also have that in the US? I just have to put this in.
Yes, and I think it's different. Each culture has a different. I think there's contraction and judgment and shame and fear around money in every culture. But I think that the specific ways that manifests change from culture to culture, certainly, and then of course individually. But I do think that there's lots of themes. America is sort of famously, if problematically, focused on money. So I think that there are ways in which Americans talk about it more than the Dutch, but it's still a taboo subject that most people don't talk about, don't learn about, don't, at some level feel like it's private, almost like, their bathroom experience or how they like to be touched in the bedroom. It's like it's not something they talk about with their own parents or kids. I think that's pretty universal. But that's the default setting that we all came from. So
yeah,
just talking about it is radical.
And it's liberating.
I agree.
It's liberating because it really opens up a space you don't know yet, because that space was always, when you're talking about going to the bathroom, doing the things you do in the bedroom, we don't talk about that. We close the door.
Literally.
Yeah, literally, we do that.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. But how did you came up with this subject? Because you were a math teacher. And you started coaching math teachers.
That's true. As a professional, I mean, when hi, I'm having a conversation with my friend Yvonne. Yeah. I'll see you really soon. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to live in New York City and make experimental films and live a great artist life. And that's what I wanted when I really was first responsible for paying my own rent and living my life. And very quickly it was like, okay, this isn't working. I don't know how to make this work. I had learned things about the business of art making, but it was like, it just felt like so much all at once. New York City is an expensive place to live. And so I was like, all right, what can I do? I was waitressing, that's what I was doing for money. But it was like, this is not my life purpose to do this. So what am I going to do? And I ended up becoming a math teacher. And that was very compelling, like fascinating, purposeful work. It felt good. It was really hard, but it was interesting and felt meaningful. And I was good at it, relatively speaking. I think it's hard to be that good at it in the States anyway. There's so many problematic systems that undermine like what I wish for kids in schools, but that is where I started. And I started coaching math teachers, as you said. And of course, in that context, I also got to witness firsthand just how absent conversations about money are in precisely the field of study that they would be most likely to belong. We didn't ever talk about money. We didn't talk about it in terms of teaching the skills, but we also didn't talk about it in terms of acknowledging the cultural differences. Because in New York City, in most schools, most public schools where I was working, the staff and the faculty are all white middle-class folks, and the kids are almost all lower class kids of color. We didn't talk about that. So there were like multiple levels that money wasn't getting talked about. Needless to say, I was fed up for a variety of reasons. But I worked in schools for 12 years. Like that was a huge part of my professional career. I learned a ton about speaking. So much of what makes it easy for me to talk to you, certainly, is that I had to freaking teach a room full of people 5 times a day for over a decade. But there's actually a couple more things in here. One important thing is that I wouldn't have survived even a month had I not started meditating. So for me, my professional experience really like developed right alongside my spiritual experience, because although I had spiritual elements in my life, it wasn't super conscious until I started teaching. And I was like, shit, I need way more support than I have. I don't know. I literally do not have the emotional, energetic, physical resources to sustain this work. And meditation was the thing. And I ended up going to India and having this huge heart-opening breakthrough of my life that just awakened me to this whole different purpose. So I kind of had that as I was teaching. Like, the reason I think I was able to stay in schools for more than a decade was because I was practicing, you know, every day, all day. I was loving, I was returning to the present moment. I was searching for what was deeper. And so that gave it meaning, even though the surface of things wasn't working. But I still just felt like towards the end, I was just irritable all the time, kind of lashing out at my colleagues. I was like, yeah, this is not me. There's something. Oh, I was also jealous of my now husband, who was like touring the world as an artist. And that's how I met you. He was going to London, and I was like, all right, I'm going to come with you and I'm going to create some work. But at the time before I started my business, I just was watching him with envy for his freedom and his expression. And so it took me a minute, but it was like, okay, there's something more. What is it? It was a radical, bizarre, totally unfamiliar idea to me that I could start a business. And honestly, it took me years to realize that this was just like another art project. My business was another art project, another piece I was making. But that's like, it called on my creativity. It leveraged my excellence in teaching and thinking about curriculum and learning and how people change. Because really, like, at the heart of education, it's transformation. It's the same. And of course, I was super into my spiritual life. And so long story short, that transition was very quick, and money felt like it just kind of picked me. There's a lot of other things that happened that I could tell the story, but really, I think the essence of it was that money as an entity, you know, Lakshmi Devi, or maybe society's desire for more awareness and skill around money was just like, tap, tap, tap.
You can do that.
Tap.
Yeah.
So, I think I also felt, again, like, I've always been very inspired by social change and equity and justice. And so working on the edge of empowering people around their relationship to money felt very, very interesting and compelling. And very quickly, what I realized I was helping people do is change their class. It's kind of a bizarre thing to talk about. Again, people don't talk about class, but I think that's the heart of the work that I have been doing. I just want to say one last thing, which is that I think one of my great blessings in life, but also a blind spot sometimes for me, is that for me, all these things are united. When I talk about changing class, I am talking about capital T truth. When I'm not I don't feel like this is about the American dream. This feels much, much, much more soulful, revolutionary, radical than that. Maybe there's an essential component that's the same, but it's like, this is about Dharma. And the recognition that any of us who are living with less than is sustainable, living with less than is healthy, living with less than is thriving, is a systemic condition that is not true to who we are.
Yeah.
It's not true to what we came here to do.
So it's not being human. It's not it's not. Yeah, I got what you're saying. It's not. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's not how we are meant to be as humans.
Yes.
As,
say it in Dutch, even if.
Ja, het moet menselijk zijn. Sorry, menselijk. Do you got it?
Yeah. Because I know what I'm talking about, and you do too. I know that. Yeah. So much of the continuation of the work, and really my ever growing edge for myself and my clients is about like, who am I really? What is the money that matches me? How does money support the vision that's flowing through me? It's not about always doing more. It's about always being true.
Yeah, but that's, from my own experience, was a fucking hard lesson to learn.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of conditioning to
I had a lot of conditioning, and I thought I was working already very, I knew everything about energy. I knew everything about intuition.
Yes.
And then you came around. I created you in my life. And then, oh my God.
Not your most comfortable moments.
It was so uncomfortable, but it was comfortable. That was weird. There's an inner truth which says, go, you gotta go. And then that old, can you say, well, don't do that. Don't trust her. It's not okay. It's not okay. Don't do it. Just don't do it. You're not feeling well. I remember I was sick for 5 months. We worked together. And then you said to me, are you sure you're sick? Maybe it's your subconscious doing this. And I was, don't you hear me? And now I get it, that the subconscious is so insidious. It wants to keep us safe.
Yes. Isn't that funny though? It wants to keep us safe, and insidious don't seem like they go together.
No,
but they do. It is interesting, having been sick for much of the last 5 months myself, how to ask that kind of question and be really loving at the same time, because I think it's easy. When I heard it as a reflection of something that I said to you, I kind of felt like, oh, ow, like that might have been hurtful or painful when I said that. I don't know. And I think it's like, this is an example of the way in which I feel like our modern conditioning can turn even the most beneficial transformational exercise or technology into a weapon. So we have to be really very conscious about how we use our training to actually, right there. It's like being who we really are sounds wonderful. Sounds like something I'm sure anyone listening to us anyway is like, yeah, sign me up. I'm already doing it. But actually, like, the things that we've built to protect our true selves are there for a reason. And dismantling them all at once, not always the best thing, not always the healthiest thing, not always the most easeful and graceful thing. So just had to throw that in there.
It's all ingrained in all your cells, so it's not.
Yes.
And I love the metaphor you used for the cup of tea. I was drinking a cup of tea then, and then I'll take mine. And then you said, because I said, well, I have a vision for this kind of money, and I didn't feel it. I didn't believe it. And then you said, well, the cup is your belief, and that cup, and the tea is your vision. And what you are doing is you're holding it like this. You're so afraid to spill the vision. But I didn't believe it, and that's the part where the condition comes in as well. Because condition, who am I to trust myself? Who am I to follow this? And I don't know where this is leading. I don't have any pathways in my brain. I don't have any thoughts about it. What if I don't have any thoughts about it? What can I do? My God.
I think it's powerful to be having this conversation so transparently years later also. I think there's a pressure, at least that I have felt, and I think a lot of people feel this, to do it and do it now, or else you've failed. And to get the result quick. And of course, there's practical things, you know, and when people invest in coaching, they typically want to make the money that they've spent on coaching right away. And I totally get that. But I think on a soul level, on a karmic level, on a dharmic level, I just see with a much longer timeline now that the things that I invested in 8 years ago, it's okay with me if I don't pay them until now. Like that, somehow giving the generosity of giving myself more time and space to play. I think today might be the first time that I can really speak that truth to you with this level of clarity that I think I'm actually giving myself the time and space I need now. And it's way, way, way more than I thought I needed. It's way more than I could have allowed myself when I had that kind of raging voice of pressure to perform, to succeed, to win.
But isn't that also a condition? Isn't that also, I think that's also a condition, because for me, it was like, I have to succeed because we are working together. I have my vision. I have, it wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Backwards, you know, it was 4.5 years ago. So I can see that now. And I have very much love for that woman who was trying so incredibly hard, succeeding.
Yes. Yes. Would you, knowing what you know now, would you make a different choice then?
Absolutely not. I would do this. She has to do the same. Because it was so liberating. Although at the time I knew it deep down, but my condition was so strong that I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to surrender to life, because the old condition wanted to rule the world, to control, so I couldn't surrender. And I think 2-3 years ago, I learned to do this. Okay. Show me, world.
Yes.
What can I create? And my head silenced. So I could see, and I think yesterday I was walking in the forest, and suddenly all the birds were singing. And then I thought, well, that's funny, because once there was a thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a little animal flying with feathers singing? Oh, that's a cute one. Okay. We create this one. And then another bird, and then another bird. And then I was walking through the forest, and I thought, well, and there was also a thought for trees. So there were trees, and there was also a thought for humans. Holy fuck, for humans. And I am one of those humans, and I'm here to create my life. How incredible, precious this is. What a gift. And it was just a second, but it all was like, wow, this is fucking amazing.
I'm just riding on your surfboard, riding in the wave of your bliss.
It was amazing.
I read a book about, let's see, maybe 4 or 5 months ago now, called Sapiens.
Oh, I know, from Harari.
Yes.
Yuval Harari, yes.
And I don't ever read books like that historically. Like I like, when I read, I like to read fantasy and science fiction and novels. So this was a departure for me, but I was so compelled, I couldn't put it down. And I felt quite disrupted. Like I realized how many assumptions, how many narratives you could say I still had about myself, but at a large scale, like through the lens of humanity, you know, what we're here for and what matters to us as a species. And the book just sliced through. That's not true, and that's not true, and that's only been true for 50 years. This not true, you know. And I think that maybe for someone, or maybe for me at another time in my life, it would have been quite disorienting and a little terrifying. But I feel like I've been through enough of that to like I was just resilient. I was able to just be present, and it just felt liberating that we're making it all up. We've always been making it all up.
Yeah.
Not all, of course, individually. I feel like that's what the heart of coaching is. It's really examining what are your ideas, what are your thoughts about yourself and your life, and are those thoughts working for you? Do you like those thoughts, or do you want some different ones? But at a species level, I don't even want to say collective. It's more genetic than that. You know, it's like even more primal. We're making it all up. We're making up ethics. We're making up values. We're making up all of it. And so I had a couple weeks of just kind of like, none of what I believe is true in an absolute way. Is there anything that I want to teach? If that's, you know, it was like, okay, let me just back up and examine. And then a couple of weeks later, I was like, you know, actually, I feel pretty great about most of my thoughts and beliefs. And I have always actually known that I was making them up, but now I'm conscious that I'm making them up, and I'm here for that. And it is quite esoteric, and it is very like, I feel lots of space around me. It's a little bit like floating in the void, and like choosing to incarnate every morning. Yeah, I'd like to choose to be Jessie again.
Yeah.
Not a thinner version of her, not a wealthier version of her, not a more profound version of her, not a prettier version of her, not a younger version of her. Yeah, that sounds fun. Let's go do that some more. What else is here today?
Yeah, but that feels space, because you are not addicted to the outcome, because it's fun. It's fun to create Jessie in February 24.
Yes. Let's see. You know, hearing you say that, I'm just like, well, then why wasn't I doing it before if it's just fun? You know, there's something about it that's more vulnerable. Sometimes more vulnerable and sometimes more demanding. I don't think it's actually those things all the time, but sometimes it's more, you know, if I just get up and I play the role, something about that can be easier. But actually it's harder most of the time. Yeah, but
the ego thinks it's easier, but it's harder.
Yeah, it's like less, it comes back to vulnerability for me. It's just safer. It's just it's not really about ease, because it takes so much more energy and effort, but it feels somehow more protected.
Yeah, and you know the rules already. You know the rules of that role, so it's so comfortable, even when it hurts. Doesn't matter. I know the rules. Okay.
Yeah. So much less risk. Yeah, this other way of living feels kind of like constant risk. And you know, so I also have compassion for myself when I get a little lost. It's like, yeah, less risk for a minute.
Yeah, and we are humans. We are here to live, to experience. That's our only goal. That's our purpose, to experience. And then we all have our own purpose to give to the world, to help others, because that was also something you taught me. Sales. Oh my God, that was terrible. Because you were saying, well, sales is not a sleazy car salesman. No, it's you are, it's a spiritual practice. You have to serve others. And that was also an error in my mind. That wasn't clear for me, but it's so obvious. It's so obvious.
What's so obvious to you now?
That you have to help others. You have a gift. I have a gift to do the thing I can do. If you have a problem and you ask for help, I can help you. If you are help, you have a service for me and you can help me, then I can help somebody else, and then we can help each other.
Yes.
And it's simple as that.
You know, since we worked together, I had a moment when my team wanted me to do a response video. You might have even seen this when we did it. And they chose a couple of sales trainings on YouTube. And I was meant to watch them and respond in real time. And it's like, this is another one of those areas where because I'm in my conscious life, pretty much surrounded by other people who value consciousness and awareness and have actually quite diverse spiritual practices, but pretty much everyone that I'm with cares about that stuff, has a high value on the awareness they bring to their life. And so I just kind of had forgotten, or like, that this is the backdrop of our relationship to money and sales. Because what I saw in these videos was the goal of being able to get someone to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Which is about control and power and domination and
manipulation.
And it lives in the paradigm of believing that in order to win, someone else will lose, like a binary.
Yeah.
Sports metaphor, And I don't think anyone, maybe there's a few exceptions, but in general, I think that people want to do good. So it's not like traditional salespeople are thinking to themselves, I want to win, and therefore I'm going to make this person lose. But it's just embedded into the way that we think about sales, capitalism, consumerism. It's that win-lose paradigm is so embedded in the maybe genetic framework. Like, so when I saw that, it really woke me up to how important it was to name that in the kind of sales and business and world that I'm interested in contributing to and building, that I'm only interested in the win-win paradigm. I actually read something that another coach said. It was kind of shared in confidence, so I won't give names, but brilliant coach talked about the statement was actually as an absolute, that my clients always win. And so that maybe there's even like taking it further. Not that he loses, but that there's it's somehow there's an even more transcendent paradigm beyond the win-win. But that's the premise. And so now, I really feel like, although I think talking about sales is such a valuable spiritual practice, such a valuable awakening tool. But for anyone listening who's like, I want to learn sales, I think it's also really important to just recognize, just talk to the people that you want to help. Don't worry about doing it right or wrong.
Yeah.
You can't fuck it up. The people that are here to learn from you will help them. And anyone that doesn't somehow find their way into that, it's not the right fit right now, period. I can't be strong enough about that.
No, but then there's also so much rules around sales that stresses people out.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have to ask for the money. You have to You have to be, you don't want to be rejected. That's terrible. You have to talk to a stranger.
Can we just address those three?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go in backwards order. So talking to a stranger.
Yeah.
At least for me, and this is what I recommend for any business that's doing real transformation. If you're bothering to have a conversation with someone in the first place, they shouldn't be a stranger by the end of the conversation. That's the point. The point of the sales conversation is to go from being a stranger to not being a stranger anymore. And maybe that takes 30 minutes, or maybe that takes 3 years. Don't let a stranger hire you. That's like, or do and learn whatever lesson that is. But if you're wanting to like skip some of the chapters that I have learned in my curriculum so that you can focus on your actual curriculum, you don't have to learn that one yourself. You can just take my word for it. You get to work with people that you genuinely love.
Yeah.
Rejection, that was the middle one. The fear of rejection, maybe this is just a mindset hack. It feels deeper to me. I'm interested in when I say it, what you feel. But to me, the paradigm of rejection, maybe it's just that it like partners so nicely with that sales, that kind of toxic sales mindset of like, I'm going to get something over on this person. If you're trying to protect yourself from rejection, you are more at risk to do something harmful to someone else so that they'll say yes to you.
Yeah.
And so there's something really like, it reminds me of your when you leaned back and you were like, I learned how to just like let life live me.
Yeah.
I think it's more like that. And to me, it doesn't feel like rejection if I understand that this is like, I'm not gonna this having a coaching relationship, a healing relationship, like a deep transformational relationship, I think it's as intimate as anything else we do. If I wouldn't get in bed and like marry someone that I wasn't completely in love with, why would I do that with a client?
Yeah.
And if they're not super into me, it's not it. Like it's just like that. And so I just think it's so much easier than we think. Of course,
Yeah.
rejection hurts, and if we really like someone and they don't like us, but to me that feels like that's part of our maturing process, to recognize that we want people who want us, not people who don't.
Mm-hmm. And allow only to work with people you like.
Yeah.
Allow yourself. Don't be a slave of being, that somebody likes you. That I remembered my first hours talking to people. They were 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Please like me. Please like me.
Yep.
Giving away a lot of things.
Yep. Yeah. So disconnected from whether or not you like them. Yeah.
But you learn so much about those conversations. You learn so much. Every conversation you have, you learn. I taped them as well, so I could re-listen. And it's just like, oh my God, I'm doing it again.
I think it's painful for us because we when we look at our recordings, we don't see ourselves. And that's true because we're not being ourselves.
No.
And so it should be a little painful.
Yeah, it's painful. But it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And then third, because we were talking
money.
The money, yes. So asking for money.
Asking for money. I mean, in a culture, in a global culture that doesn't even want to talk about money, asking for it is a whole advanced curriculum. I think that again, it's like, I know that I'm making it sound like it's so easy, and everyone will have their own journey to this, but I really do want to hold that actually it is that easy.
Yeah.
And it will take us, each of us, as long as it takes to choose the ease that is possible. But when I really look at everything that I've done in the last almost 8.5 years in business, the only things that have worked have been ease. That's always what's worked. And so
Yeah.
again, anyone listening, like just feel free to skip all the hard work, all the suffering and efforting and pretending and struggling, and wherever you can, really ask the question, what would ease look like here? Who am I when I'm easy?
Yeah.
How do I act? How do I speak?
But
What
then you
clothes do
already
I
made
wear?
then you already made the shift, because when you are in that that hole, which is from your ego, which is tearing you down,
Mm.
then it's difficult. Your happiness is only one thought away, but that's then very difficult to imagine, because then you're gonna say, well, nah, that's not true. It can't be, because then you actually have to do it.
It just occurred to me listening to you. I'm always like, oh, it's this new underneath the frameworks that I've already seen. There's another one. There's another truth. And what just felt visible to me that I hadn't seen before is that I think that the difference is just the willingness to ask ourselves what's true for us, rather than worrying about how to do it right, how to get the approval, how to live as the role that we've been practicing for decades. But really in the present moment, like, what's true for me? Do I want to be here? What do I want? Do I like the temperature? Do I want, I want some hydration. Do I need to pee? Like, it's very mundane. It can be very simple. But just the willingness it's not about like selfishness, but just awareness, and interest.
I had a great exercise from Michael Neal, and he said, take 5. Just sit in a chair, take 5, and you just sit, and you don't meditate, you don't think of anything, you just sit, and you wait till a thought comes up, which you like, and you want to do it, do it. Take 5. And that's so relaxing and so allowing the space to be you.
Yeah. You said something earlier that I just want to echo, because I think it's, I don't know, the fuel, the prerequisite, the goal, it's all the things, is trust in yourself.
Yeah. And you can trust yourself because you're always there. You can always rely on this. You're always having it with you. It's always here for you. I didn't get that, but it's always here for you. Life is always for you.
I agree. I choose that belief too.
Yeah, we can choose. It was funny, a couple of weeks ago, I was also walking in the forest, and I was thinking, I'd love to talk to you about desire.
Have we?
No, we haven't talked about it. And then 2 days later, you posted a little film about a book you were going to write, and you were reading out loud desire and about suffering desire.
Yes.
Amazing topic.
Yeah, I'm still very much in this contemplation. What is desire? How do I think about desire? But that day, that's still living in me, that there's something true in our desire and there's something suffering in our desire. So it's not so much about the desire itself as the relationship we have to it. I really still, nothing has happened that has changed my experience that our desire comes from source, true desire, deep desire. And that's why I think it's so powerful when we tune in the way that I was just sort of modeling. Like, do I want hydration? Do I want to pee on this very mundane level?
Yeah.
That helps us listen to what desire is telling us. I think our desire to create, our desire to be seen, our desire to contribute, our desire to receive, our desire for pleasure, our desire, all of this feels correct to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also true
Yeah,
that
it can change minute by
it
minute.
changes. What we want changes. And no matter how much of what we want we get, we still want more things or more experiences. And so for me, that's a way that makes desire trustable, because we know it's not going anywhere. But I do think that some of the suffering that we have experienced as humans around desire is that it doesn't go away. And so there's I think actually part of my transcendence and healing around this has come from my spiritual lineage, which is Bhakti yoga, where desire, the desire for proximity to the beloved is seen as this highest form of worship. It's in the moments when we feel the most separate that we're able to really, you could say, pray with the most sincerity. I think that when I got that, just the first glimmer of the teachings of Bhakti, I was able to then kind of use my desire well. Where before it just felt like that separation was only painful. Separation, I think, can still be quite painful, but it's in service to something connected.
Yeah.
And so I think, I mean, in a short moment here, we probably need a whole other conversation to talk about the depth of that esoteric topic, which I'm delighted to do.
We can do that another time then, because we are almost talking for an hour.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's beautiful. We can do another time. We can schedule another date.
Great.
I'd love that. I want to thank you so much. I'm all excited. I'm all red. I want to thank you so much for your wisdom and for your vulnerability to show who you are on this journey.
Thank you for seeing me, recognizing me then in the ways that you did, but now, not but, in many different ways. I think that's the glory, that's the delight, that's the healing, the soothing, the nourishment of choosing this true self path, is then in the moments of real relationship when we feel seen and understood by someone. Maybe those words are not quite the right words.
No, but you were the first who really saw me in my true self. What my true self may be, but I really felt I had a very good feeling, and that's truth.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be with you in that way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. En jij ook weer dankjewel voor het luisteren en tot een volgende keer. Bye bye.